Good afternoon. Rich Nass, Executive Vice President with Open Systems Media, here for this week's installment of 5 Minutes With. This week, I will be spending 5 minutes with Joyce Mullen, who is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Dell's IoT and OEM business units. Boy, I screwed that up, didn't I, Joyce?
That's all right. There's a lot of acronyms in there. No problem.
Very good. I think people get the point. You know a lot about the IoT and the OEM business, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Perfect.
So what I'd like to focus on actually is the industrial part of IoT. And it's a discussion that I have often with a lot of people because I think that there's a misnomer about this, partly, and I'm partly responsible because of how we report on this stuff. But there's so much focus on the hardware in the IoT, especially with respect to industrial. And, you know, it's got to be faster. You have to have more nodes. It's got to cover this, got to cover that. But when it really comes down to it, it's all about it's all about the data that you're collecting. And without the data, you really have nothing, no matter what kind of hardware you have. Do you agree with that? And, you know, am I on the right path here?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind, or I would say in most of our customers' minds, that the value is really in the data and the presentation of the data and the actionable insights you can derive from that data, the decisions you can make because of the data. And I would totally say you're 100% right that it's all about the data. Now, I will say that it's really hard to collect the data and to present that data and to analyze that data unless you've got some tremendous architecture and infrastructure that supports it. So I don't think you can have data without the hardware, but the value is most clearly in the data and the actionable insights that you can derive from that data.
You know, it's funny, as I'm going through my diatribe about how unimportant the hardware is, and I didn't say that, and I don't believe that, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm talking to Dell, and they provide all the hardware. So I guess I'm putting you in a funny position here because you have to sell hardware. But what I think of what you guys do is actually selling, and it's the word everybody hates, the solution. I mean,
so look, I mean, our job in the OEM space and certainly in the IoT space is to try to understand customers' requirements, understand how they've written and architected their software, and figure out how to deliver the brains that this stuff has to run on, right? But the value of all of our OEM customers, whether they're launching satellites or whether they're sequencing genomes or whether they're figuring out how to manage the cold chain in their retail environment, is clearly in the software and the data that they are collecting and turning into, you know, improved efficiency or better customer experience or whatever it is. This is why Michael Dell has been pretty clear that what we want to be is the essential infrastructure company so that we can provide all this infrastructure and make sure it works perfectly well, but always serving the needs of the customers, which are, you know, trying to figure out how to deliver something better than they got today. And whether that's either a more efficient process or a better customer experience or some brand new revenue streams or a safer environment, all those things are really, really important, and we want to be here to help. And infrastructure is critical. You can't do it without infrastructure. You can't do it without hardware. But the value is in the data and the actions you can derive from that.
Okay, I'm going to let you talk about Dell for a minute here. I mean, this is something I don't normally do, but you talked about some applications that are not the type of applications that certainly come to mind. I mean, when I'm talking about IoT, we're usually thinking about what's the temperature, is the light on or off, is the machine rolling properly, and what you offer some really, really intense things. So it seems like you're playing on a different field than your regular board level folks.
Well, I mean, I think we are learning from our customers, and our customers are doing amazing things. And, there's technology and there's compute absolutely everywhere. And, what I love about the OEM business is that we've been supporting these customers who've been doing this super cool stuff for a very, very long time. and they need infrastructure, and they need hardware, they need compute, they need storage, they need network connectivity, whatever they need. And so we get to learn a ton from them. And, IoT, as you know, Rich, you said it too, is not exactly a new phenomenon. It's been happening in industrial environments for a really long time, and our customers have been doing it for a really long time. What is new is that we get to instrument environments that haven't been instrumented before. So we're taking all of this knowledge that we have, built up for a long time after working with customers in this OEM space for over 20 years, and we're putting that to good use in the IoT space because it's kind of the same drill. Again, you got to sort of understand what problems customers are trying to solve, and you got to make sure you're building a solution together with that customer, including the analytics, including the data collection, including the infrastructure, and put all that together so it makes some sense to them and delivers what they're looking for.
But when you're talking about things like satellites and genomes, I'm guessing that you're playing in spaces that your average guy doesn't play in.
Well, our customers are playing in all different areas, and we are there to support them. And as I said, you think about it, computers are everywhere, right? They're in cranes, they're in trains, they're in automobiles, they're in satellite launchers, they're in genome sequencers, they're in kiosks, they're in everything. And this market is $110 billion, and that's even before IoT really takes off. So this is going to be a huge space for us, and we're ready to serve it.
Would you quantify that $105 billion? What does that mean? Because when I think of industrial IoT, I think of a number that's significantly larger than that. What are you referencing?
Yeah, I'm talking about just the traditional OEM space, where you take technology like compute and storage and you build it into products that customers are already building, things like factory process automation, industrial process controllers, healthcare devices, transportation equipment, things like network and communications equipment. All of that has compute in it, for example, and storage in it. And so that's the traditional OEM market, and that's the $110 billion. When you think about the market size for industrial IoT, you could include that as part of it, but it's much, much bigger. If you really think there's going to be 200 billion devices attached to the internet by 2031, as we do, then that market is significantly larger, and you're absolutely right.
Very good. Very interesting. Well, this is something we could talk about for a while, and we didn't really get back to the idea of the data, but that's something I would love to explore in a future conversation.
Absolutely, and I think you're exactly right. That's where the value is, and that's going to be, data is going to be the new currency over time. I totally agree with you.
Oh, that's very provocative. But and that's another good topic. But unfortunately, this was 5 minutes with, and we've used up our 5 minutes, so we're going to have to put an end to this version at this point. That was Joyce Mullen. She is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Dell's Global OEM and IoT Business Units. And I'm Rich Nass with Open Systems Media. Thank you very much, Joyce. Have a great day.
Thanks, Rich. Pleasure to be with you.